What if I told you that you could find a hidden 20% of productivity in your workday without anyone having to work a single minute longer? Well, it all comes down to a powerful technique from the 1930s that's actually more relevant now than ever. Today, we're diving deep into work sampling. Welcome to Bodhi Unified Flow, where we simplify complexity and amplify performance. And honestly, there's probably no better example of that mission than what we're talking about today: work sampling. It is a remarkably simple tool that unlocks some truly incredible insights into performance. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to start with the big problem that really stumped early managers. Then we'll look at the elegant snapshot solution they discovered. We'll trace its pretty surprising history, unpack the 4 main reasons you'd use it, and then, to wrap it all up, we'll see why this old idea is basically a secret weapon for modern businesses. And the goal here is simple. By the end of this explainer, you're going to have a really clear framework for understanding not just what work sampling is, but how you can start thinking about its powerful applications in your own world. So let's get started. Okay, so to really get why work sampling is so brilliant, we first have to understand the problem it was designed to solve. So let's dive into section 1, the measurement problem. So I want you to put yourself in the shoes of a manager way back in the early 20th century. Your factory, your office, it's a buzzing hive of activity. But you have this huge, fundamental question. How on earth do you accurately measure work? Especially the kind of work that isn't just a simple, repetitive task. How do you quantify the day of a maintenance person or a supervisor, or anyone whose job is complex, varied, and, constantly changing? Well, for the longest time, the only real answer was something called a continuous time study. I want you to think of this like shooting a movie of a worker. You'd literally have someone with a stopwatch follow one person around all day, writing down everything they do. I mean, you can imagine it was incredibly expensive and time-consuming. Plus, nobody works normally when someone's breathing down their neck, right? It just didn't work for complex jobs. Now, compare that to work sampling, which is so much more like creating a photo album. Instead of one long, boring movie, you just take a bunch of random, quick snapshots. This way is way more cost-effective, it's a lot less disruptive, and it's so versatile you can use it for just about any kind of work. Okay, so if the old way was this long, expensive, kind of clunky movie, what's this new photo album approach all about? Well, that brings us right into section 2, the power of a snapshot. All right, so let's get a formal definition on the table. What exactly is work sampling? It's a statistical technique that helps you figure out the proportion of time that people or machines spend on different activities. The secret sauce, the real magic, is in how it does this. You're not watching one thing for a long time. You're taking a whole bunch of random, instantaneous observations. It's all about seeing the whole forest, not just one single tree. And you might be thinking, okay, but does that actually work? How can random snapshots be accurate? Well, it all hinges on a really solid principle of statistics. It's the exact same idea behind political polling. You don't have to ask every single voter to get an accurate prediction. You just need to ask a small, random sample, and that sample will almost always reflect the whole group. Work sampling uses that very same logic. And this right here is maybe the most important takeaway. The whole mindset shifts. You stop asking, how long does this task take? And you start asking a totally different and much more powerful question. What percentage, what proportion of our entire day is spent on this? That little shift from duration to proportion is what uncovers all the hidden waste and opportunities. And here's what that looks like when the data comes in. This is a fantastic example. After a study, you get this crystal clear picture of a typical workday. So you see here, okay, 60% of the day is on tasks that actually add value. That's great. But look at this. A full quarter of the day is lost to what we call necessary delays, waiting for materials or instructions. And then another 15% is just pure waste. Suddenly, you're not guessing anymore. You have a roadmap that tells you exactly where to focus your improvement efforts. So this is a pretty powerful idea, right? But it didn't just pop into existence. It's actually got a pretty cool history. So for section 3, let's take a quick trip back in time and check out this technique's timeline. It all kicks off back in 1935 in a British textile factory of all places. A guy named L.H.C. Tippett came up with what he called the snap reading method, just quick glances. Then, in 1940, this idea makes its way over to the US, where it gets a new name, the ratio delay survey. It's not until 1952 that it gets the name we all use today, work sampling. And flash forward to now, and that simple, core idea is being supercharged by all sorts of advanced data analysis tools. Okay, so we've got the what and the where from. Now for the really important part, the why. What do you actually use this for? Let's get into it in Section 4, the 4 core purposes. When you boil it all down, work sampling really helps you do 4 main things. First off, it's an amazing tool for just finding and getting rid of wasted time. It shines a bright light on all those hidden inefficiencies. Second, once you know how time is spent, you can establish fair and realistic standard times for tasks, which naturally leads to the third point. You can measure how people are actually performing against those realistic goals. And finally, with all of that solid data, you can set operating goals that are actually achievable. You're not just guessing anymore. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Okay, this is interesting history, but it's from the 1930s. Is it really still relevant today? And the answer is absolutely yes. And in Section 5, we're going to see exactly why it still matters so much. I mean, just look at how versatile this is. It's not just for factories anymore. Think about a construction site. It can help spot how much time crews spend just waiting around for materials. Or jump over to healthcare, where it can analyze how much time nurses actually get to spend with patients versus doing paperwork. Even in high-tech fields like software engineering, it can show you the balance between building new stuff and fixing old bugs. The question is always the same. Where is our time really going? Let's make this real with a quick case study. We'll call them ABC Corp. Now, they were facing a really common problem, big inefficiencies, but they couldn't quite pinpoint why. So they decided to try work sampling, and, well, the results were pretty eye-opening. What did the data show? Something they never would have guessed. A massive chunk of their team's day, like 40%, was just evaporating into things like unnecessary meetings and waiting for parts. It wasn't that people were being lazy, the system itself was broken. And get this, by just fixing those 2 problems, they boosted productivity by 20%. 20%! That's the difference between guessing where the problem is and knowing. All right, let's wrap this up with the key takeaways. If you remember nothing else from this, remember these 4 things. First, work sampling is the cost-effective photo album, not the expensive movie. Second, it's all about proportions, not just duration. Third, even though it's old, it's a timeless tool for getting better. And finally, its purpose is simple. Find waste, set good standards, and measure your performance. So, we've covered a lot of ground, right? From that initial measurement problem all the way to modern applications. You should now have a really solid grip on what this is all about, where it came from, and why it's so powerful. So I want to leave you with one final question to think about. We're all pretty good at tracking how our time is spent, but the real question that work sampling forces us to ask is our time being invested? Hey, thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. The sources we used are on the screen for you now. We really appreciate you investing your time with us today here at Bodhi Unified Flow.